Welcome to the High Value Sales Show of Eversprint.com. I'm Malcolm Louie, the managing member of Eversprint, and today we're speaking with Mandy Burage, the Director of Operations at Petra Coach, a provider of business coaching to mid-market companies looking for strategic planning and accountability through the Rockefeller Habits. Welcome to the call, Mandy.
Hi, Malcolm. Thank you for having me.
Mandy, you helped grow your company's revenue from $860,000 in 2014 to $4 million in 2017, a 365% increase. And in 2018, you hit right under $5 million. Before we talk about how you grew your company so fast, can you briefly share what your company does beyond my quick intro and how your company differs from the competition?
Sure. Petra Coach has been around for 7 years. Right in January, this is our 7th year anniversary. And the company grew really from 2 people, myself and Andy Bailey, doing this 7 years ago, with a need to have a positive impact on 10 million human beings. If you look at our one-page plan, that's kind of our core purpose. And we realized that the only way that we would be able to start hitting those numbers and to have that positive impact was to grow our team and to grow our client base. So there was tons of success in just 2 people doing this. But in order to actually reach our purpose that we had as an organization, we had to both hire more folks, grow more members, and then continue this beyond just the 2 of us. And so it started from that, and then every year we've just continued to add more and more. The demand gets higher, the team grows bigger, and we really just eat our own dog food, so to say, and practice Rockefeller Habits and the scaling up process to grow our own business internally.
Now, are there competitors out there that do something similar to what your company does?
Of course. Within the market, there's a lot of other business coaching organizations that are out there. Our particular focus, I would say, is on obviously the Rockefeller Habits and strategic planning. So we do goal setting, lots of meeting rhythms, and then a focus on company culture as well. There's lots of other companies that do this, lots of other individuals, I should say, that do this. We are unique in that we have created a group of individuals that do this. So most other business coaches out there is somebody that does this independently, typically work out of their home and will come in, in and out of a planning session to see you maybe monthly or quarterly. We've taken a team approach to that, which is a little unique in the industry. There are 23, I think, people currently at Petra. And so we have the ability to make sure that we match the particular member with the right coach for that area of expertise. There's a team facilitating all the materials and logistics and production behind it so that the actual planning day can be the best possible.
Okay, fantastic. So the key differentiator really is that you have a team approach to
Correct.
Providing your business coaching services.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, which is kind of nice too, right? Because the coach is pretty much always available year round, right? Some guy's on holiday or his wife is in the hospital giving birth to a new kid, right?
Exactly. There's always, and if a member that we're working with has a particular niche, and maybe the coach that has been assigned to that account can't answer that there is a plethora of resources that they can go to. So we might have another coach on our team that does have that skill set or can answer that question or has that industry knowledge, so they can join that session, hop on a call. And so it makes the implementation from the member, which is what we call our clients, that much faster because there's just more resources available.
Right. Now, before we get started on other parts of our Q&A in our interview, can you give more details on the Rockefeller Habits?
Sure. The Rockefeller Habits, Vern Harness officially wrote the book, Mastering Rockefeller Habits, and we have been practicing that, I'll say we, myself in particular, for about 13 years now. So the organization that I worked for previous also implemented the habits, and an individual could essentially grab the Rockefeller Habits book and implement that themselves. It's creating your one-page personal plan for your one-page strategic plan for your business. Personal plans for yourself, and then your strategic plan is for your business. A lot of organizations start out, there's an entrepreneur, they have a dream, they hire some folks, then all of a sudden it's come to reality. They might hit 2 million, 10 million, whatever their number is. And then all of a sudden they realize that maybe some of the structure, they're lacking structure, they're lacking meeting rhythms, they're lacking that long-term vision. And that's where that one-page strategic plan comes into place. And so through the Rockefeller Habits, it's a series of activities and exercises to create that one-page strategic plan for the organization so that everybody is completely aligned on where the direction of the business is going. And then there's communication rhythms, meeting rhythms, such as daily huddle, weekly huddle, and such that support that to both, communication. And then Petra's kind of spin on that would be the culture piece that we've added and really work with culture as well.
And it's called the Rockefeller Habits because
John D.
CEO
Rockefeller.
made it way back then.
Exactly. When you're one of the most successful people, everyone's going to look and say, what are you doing and how do we need to do that? And so the Rockefeller Habits themselves are based on that.
Okay, got it. And for the one pager, is this a densely packed, filled with text? You need a magnifying glass to read everything, or is it just 10 bullet points?
I will say it can be either. The idea behind it would be a very short, concise, here's the direction of the plan. I've seen one that you can squeeze as many bullet points as you'd like, but the idea behind it is in fact a one-page plan. So it should fit on a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and it has the long-term vision, your BHAGs, goes down to your 3 to 5 year goals. What are you working on in the next 3 to 5 years? What's your big focus this year? What are you doing quarterly? And then what are the individuals doing? And so there's complete alignment from what are you doing today to how does what I'm doing today affect the business in the long term. So it should be short and concise. Okay.
The shorter end of the plan doesn't sound too different from the 12-week year, if you've ever read that book.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of different, what we say here at Petra is, we're not really teaching anything new. We're not teaching rocket science. It's the same principles that a lot of times are out there and that are just basic to business world. Mm-hmm. We help hold folks accountable and then make sure that those actions happen.
Right. Now, when you say that you're doing accountability and planning through the Rockefeller Habits, does that mean that you're licensed to use that name?
Correct. All the coaches on our team have been certified. So we have 10 coaches currently, and they've been certified in the material to be enabled to go teach that to other individuals.
Right, through the Rockefeller Habits organization.
Correct.
Okay, got it. So now that I know what the Rockefeller Habits are all about, can you share with me what were the 3 biggest drivers of your sales growth over the past 4 years that took you from $860,000 in 2014 to right under $5 million in 2018?
3 biggest drivers. It's a great question. When I think about it, the biggest drivers for us has been, it's hard to say, it's really the drive from, I'm going to say, getting in front of individuals and that word of mouth. The type of people that are attracted to this is going to be that entrepreneur that has, been doing this themselves for a while. Typically, they hear about us from somebody else. They see us speak at some sort of speaking event. And then from there, they say, I've been doing this myself. A lot of times I'll equate this to the gym. I'm going to the gym, I'm running on a treadmill or lifting weights, and you can only go so far typically on your own. And it's those folks that are ready for the next step. And so a driver for us has really been getting in front of those folks. And the need, I would say, and demand were a lot greater than we expected. And so from that, more people coming to us saying, I want to sign up for this. I need a planning session. Come work with my team. Then it led us to go and hire additional folks to go and meet that demand. And so getting in front of folks and having that word of mouth really from other companies that we work with and other speaking engagements really drove a lot more of that quicker than we thought that it would.
Okay. So is that one big driver or are those the 3 wrapped all together?
It's hard to say what the 3 are. It's okay. I wouldn't say that we have 3 specific things that have grown the business. A lot of it has happened naturally, just natural growth of getting in front of somebody. The demand's there, we fulfill the need. The demand grows a little bit more, we fulfill the need. And we are ever changing based on what that looks like. I always tell people that are interested in working here, if you are liking to have things a certain way and to be consistent, this is probably not the place for you, because we are constantly looking for improvement and change and challenging the status quo.
Right. Now, you said before that your target market, your ideal clients are entrepreneurs, but then in the introduction that I had for you, you talk about serving mid-market size companies. So, those are generally been around for a while. It's a decent sized business. But do they still consider themselves an entrepreneurial company?
It's somebody that has the ability, I will say, to make a decision quickly and implement change inside their business. We work with all sorts of organizations. We have anything from a family-owned business. We work with startups. We work with companies that are $150 million that have been around for 70 years. So I will say our range is fairly broad depending on the needs of that particular member. But the consistency that we find in all of them is that they have the ability to go and enact the change that needs to be happen in the business fairly quickly. So organizations that have, I'll say, lots of checks and balances and maybe boards they have to run things by, maybe is not going to be our target market because it just takes longer to implement, which is going to mean longer to see that success for that particular member.
Right. Okay. Now, when you say making change, you talking about making change at the highest level or making change, somewhere in the middle of the org chart?
At our setup, we always like to start at the highest level. So we call it a kickoff day, which are the very first 2 days that our Petra team meets with a member. And that day, the very first day, is always going to be the highest level of leadership. And that's who's creating that long-term vision for the company. And so we always start with leadership to create the one-page plan, to roll out those communication rhythms, to roll out any new culture initiatives. And then it's their responsibility to roll that down to the rest of their team. We do have organizations that we work with that they do all team planning. So we have 100 people in the room, and we're doing a big planning with 100 people. And those are kind of always very exciting, some of our favorite ones to do. But we have some that just like to keep it within that small leadership team, and then they are responsible for taking that back down to the team.
Okay. Now, you refer to your clients as members. Why do you refer to them as members instead of clients?
It's really a long-term engagement when somebody sets up with Petra. I'll go back to the gym analogy, is that if somebody can do this on their own, they've hired Petra to really take them to the next level. It might be a financial dollar amount that they want to reach. It might just be a structure in place. It might be leadership developed if they want. Whatever the challenge or the need is for that member, we work with them over a period of time to fulfill that challenge. And then at some point, they need to graduate and become an alumni. So they've worked with us, they have created their plan, their rhythms are in place, they're really doing the work, and they can kind of take it back in-house themselves. And then when they're in that alumni status, that doesn't mean that anything really goes away from Petra. They're still invited to all of our events. We do learning activities once a month. They're invited to those. We do a summit twice a year. They come with us. And so it's really more of a lifetime membership kind of into ongoing learning and development. It doesn't stop when the agreement ends, so to say.
Okay, so are they paying you still as an alumni?
They're not. It's just when somebody kind of moves into that status, they'll still come to events and be participating, but there's no financial gain at Petra from that point.
Right. Okay. But I imagine if they attend your summit, that might be something that they might need to invest in.
It's a summit through Gazelles, and so it's not our summit, so to say. They attend with us, and the biggest thing that we found from alumni is that alumni are our biggest cheerleaders. So the referrals and the word of mouth that we get from that group really fuels so much of our current pipeline. Right. It's probably the biggest thing that they offer for us.
Okay, great. Now, can you talk a little bit about how you're able to get in front of the individuals? I know you mentioned that you do speaking, so people hear you and reach out to you then. What are the other ways that you put yourself in front of the right individuals?
We have not really turned on any marketing thus far. It's on our one-page strategic plan, so we will turn it on at some point. But so far internally, we have not turned anything on. A ginormous chunk of our pipeline comes from our current client base or those alumni members. So I'm going to say that's probably our biggest revenue driver, biggest lead driver. The second would be the speaking engagements. All the coaches on our team have the ability and go speak to various organizations. EO has historically been a pretty big driver for us. And the relationship that we have with the scaling up team, the team over at Gazelles as well, with lead generation and things like that. So we've just kind of used what we have at our fingertips for right now without having to turn on anything external thus far.
Mm-hmm. Now, your growth for 2017 to 2018, still pretty good, right? Almost 25% year-on-year growth. But, maybe a little bit slower relative to over the past 4 years.
Correct.
Is that because the business flow that's coming from referrals has not grown in as rapidly as your revenue growth? Hence, that's why we're seeing a drop-off, not drop-off, but a slight slowdown in your growth trajectory?
We actually took this past year intentionally to slow down a little bit so that we could work on some of our internal systems and processes. We're luckily in the exact same position as so many of our members, that we're at that same level of just high growth. And it was so exciting. And I mean, when an opportunity would come, if you're a new business or you're a young business, you just jump on it and you figure out a way to go do the work. It might not be the best way. It might not be scalable. It might not be repeatable, but you just kind of figure it out. And we started off kind of in that same path. Processes weren't as tight as they needed them to be. Things would slip through the cracks every now and then, or things just weren't automated. They were taking too long. And so we decided to really spend this year on setting ourselves up for that scalable growth so that it was no longer a challenge on the internal business. So knowing that, we did have to say no to some members. We had to say this wasn't the right time, they weren't the right fit, when historically that would not have been a path that we would have done. Right.
Yeah. As your business grows, things have to change, right? You can't your infrastructures and systems don't necessarily grow linearly.
They don't. You wish they did, but they don't. And so we were outgrowing things really faster. And we've actually continued some of that a little into 2019 as well. Mm-hmm. So this year probably as well will not be one of the higher growth for us. We are rolling out many new systems. We're doing a new internal office move. So this is kind of our year to focus on us a little bit so that when everything is completely done, we hit go, and then everything is perfect from there on out.
Yeah. And it also mentioned, I guess it's kind of, you mentioned earlier before that marketing is on your strategic plan, right? So it sounds like you're setting up all the systems so that you can switch on that marketing machine and handle a greater flow of business than what you're getting now from word of mouth referrals.
There is. One of our core values is to see around the curve. And so knowing that, we always want to make sure that we are 2 to 3 steps ahead, whatever that next step is. So we do want to make sure that that our team is 100% prepared internally so that when we turn on marketing, we're ready and that we're not falling behind on leads or processes for those.
Right. Okay, good. Now, how do you proactively find individuals that have the mindset you're looking for? Or do you go the other way and let them find you? Because what you mentioned as your ideal clients, it's a bit on the soft side trying to quantify it.
Correct. I would say we do have a lot of folks, for the most part, they find us. They find us and they're oftentimes not sure what they're looking for. Our membership development team does a really great job of discovering what a client's pain points are and what their needs are. And so they have to kind of fit into our sandbox, is what we call it, for the type of organization that we want. Is this individual or a team of people, are they lifetime learners? Are they willing to actually put in the work? Can they financially afford the work? Are they willing to invest the time? This is not something, we're not consultants, so our team is not going to come in and create any systems and processes or tell you what to do. It's nothing of that nature. And so we really, I'll say, spend a lot of time vetting particular members to make sure that it's right on both sides so that when we, turn that switch on and they join the membership, that it's a good use of our time and their time as well.
Right. And this occurs after they reach out to you and
Correct.
say, I'd like to learn more. Okay.
Yeah. So the pipeline is fairly full, and then from that, it's a lot of Q&A. People come and see what we do. So if somebody's interested to say, I'm not sure if I want to invest in this full time, we love to have guests at our planning session. We work across the country. So depending on where your location is, we probably have a planning session coming up somewhere in your state or in your regional area. And so we'll have people come and sit on those and see the day and meet the team to make sure that, again, it's something that both sides want to invest in.
Right. Now, you mentioned before, early on in our conversation, that demand has been very high for your services. Why not bump up your prices a bit more and, try to find a balance that way?
We did do that, hence some of those earlier growth numbers that you saw. And so some of that was we took, I think 2 years ago, we did a price increase because the demand was there. And so we did that. It was pretty successful. I'll also say, though, that with that price increase comes a greater demand on our team. So all of a sudden, the activities that we were doing, I think our team felt a little bit of pressure to bring more, to bring better, because it was a higher price point as well. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It creates a little bit more, I'll say, nervousness on this team. But this is also a team of competitive individuals that are also self-starters and lifetime learners. And so it amplified this team as well. We did have some folks on our team that probably wasn't the right fit, had to let a couple folks go, hire some new people as well. And so that onboarding stage takes a little bit of time as well. So bumped some of those prices, then had to do a little bit of internal reorganization and restructuring. And then now we're still working on, I'm going to say, training and really making sure that some of those newer coaches are ready to go.
Right. And another factor that you mentioned at the beginning of our call is how your business and what you're doing is constantly changing. Can you talk about what those changes are?
Sure. I will say the reading aspect of this team is huge. And I'll call it reading, podcasts, video learning. There's 22, 23 people on this team that are constantly out in the world absorbing information and bringing it back. And one of the things that we really like to do and pride ourselves on doing is if somebody else is doing it better or differently, we call it R&D. A lot of times we'll say, do you know what R&D is? And, somebody says, oh yeah, research and development, or we say, no, it's rip off and duplicate. So not quite to those extent, but if somebody's already doing something better, then is that something we can implement? Can we learn something from somebody else and go incorporate that into our business? And when you have this many folks out there reading and consuming and learning information, there's just ideas that flow through all the time. Should we be doing this? Let's look at this. Here's a new process. Here's a new structure. Here's a new sales technique that someone's due. Here's a new 5 dysfunctions workshop that we should attend. We should teach our members this. So there's just so many opportunities to help these businesses with communication, with structure, that there's a lot of them that we'll pick and maybe focus on one for a quarter and turn it off and pick another one for a quarter. So the base of what we do is Rockefeller Habits, but we're always going to bring a little bit something different, a little bit something extra, which is going to be that change piece. And so It's always what's the new and next thing that we can do to elevate ourselves.
Now, what do you do when you come up, when you see some new idea that looks pretty cool, but if you were to use it in lieu of something else, right, and that something else, if it was clearly floundering, it's kind of easy to try something new. But what if you have a new idea for something that's working fairly well for you now, but you have another idea that might work better? Are you guys comfortable making that change?
We do it often. Sometimes I will say that one of our challenges is maybe we have too many ideas. We are a team of, independent leaders that are self-driven, that all want their ideas to be the ones that work, that all want their ideas to be the ones that are implemented. So there is no shortage of that on our team. And we have plenty that we turn on and we say this is going to be is a focus for a quarter for us, and it just doesn't work out. We kind of say here, well, you throw 10 things on the wall and if 3 of them stick, we're pretty good with that. And it's a little bit of our company culture is that we know that not everything's going to stick. We don't want to invest a tremendous amount of time and effort. We are an efficient team as well. So we always will throw something out there, give it our all 100%. If it doesn't work, no big deal. No hurt feelings, no pointing fingers. Let's pick something else and let's just move on and learn from it.
Right. Yeah. As long as you're learning something from it, you've had a pretty good day, right?
Exactly.
So, earlier also in our conversation, you talked about the different kinds of clients you work with, from family-owned to startups to $150 million businesses. I know at one point your team does, when they do the initial discussions with a potential member, you do talk about whether or not they can afford your services.
Of course.
Do you have a minimum revenue requirement, sales requirement for the members you work with?
We say that our sandbox is really between 5 million to 200 million. We do have, a lot of startup companies will come to us. They're probably the ones that are hungriest for this because they're new and they want to start from the beginning with the best structure in place. And so we do have a lot of those. We have created some smaller workshop type materials and things like that have attempted to get smaller startups into a group type setting. It's just not our sandbox. It's not our bread and butter. And so it's not proven to be the area that we really focus on. Where we really shine is those bigger companies that everybody can come into a day and they can actually implement the process and see the results from that.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, so I was just going to say, so we do have, we'll start on the lower end, but it does become challenging for some of those smaller companies financially.
Right. So your services are done one-on-one, meaning one or two coaches will go to the site, your client's site, or you do it over Zoom or something. That's the way your training works.
Yeah, anytime somebody signs on to be a Petra member, is we'll come and do a 2-day kickoff at their location or an offsite location somewhere. Like I said, we travel across the country, and I think we have 5 candidates in Canada, and we have a UK coach as well that has a couple members across the UK. So we'll travel pretty much wherever. We do a 2-day kickoff to kind of set up the framework for that. And we'll come see you 3 months after that. So essentially every quarter we'll come and do a face-to-face meeting with ideally the entire company, but oftentimes just the leadership team. And we'll do that every quarter throughout the life of the engagement. Most engagements are anywhere from 2 years to 3 years. And we have some members that have been around for 5 or 6 years. So it's really the implementation period. Once you have all the structure in place, you can go down to a lower engagement where we just come in and do facilitations and essentially quarterly planning, is what we call it. And once you've kind of graduated that alumni status, if you decide you don't want to take it internally, then you can stay with one of our coaches and they'll continue to come do that service for you.
Right. Now, do people commit to the time in advance, or is it more of we just kind of roll it over on every 3 months, every 6 months?
There's no commitment. Everything is month to month, so any member can leave at any time. That gives us an out if someone's not doing the work, or if they're not implementing at the rate that we'd like them to, and not being a good member and answering calls and coming prepared for the day. It's not the best use of our time, so it gives us an out so that we can no longer work with that member. And then vice versa, if it's not what they wanted, they can go out as well. So any member can leave at any time. But for the most part, when somebody signs on, it's a 2-year implementation. So it should be around 24 months at an average structure. I'll say that some members implement faster than that. If they're really eager and they have extra time to focus on some of this, they might shorten it to maybe 18 months. A lot of members go longer than that if they're just incredibly busy. I'll call it in their day-to-day operations and say, I don't have time to work on my structure this month. I don't have time to roll out meeting rhythms. Then it might take them somewhere around 36 months.
Right. Now, is it standard pricing for all of your clients, or is it a bit different?
The pricing is based a little bit on the complexity of the member. Some of it has to do with their location. If we can fly in and fly out relatively easy, then the price point for that member is probably going to be a little bit lower as if we have to fly somewhere, drive for 3 hours in the car to get there, because we're not able to go and fly and do one the next day. Essentially, we are a day rate, so to say, to come in. And so if we can easily get in and out of a location, we're able to charge that member a little bit less because we can essentially leave their location the same night, fly to another city, and do another one the next day.
Right. Okay.
When we're flying to the middle of nowhere, then unfortunately there's a little bit extra charge for that.
Right. Now, I have another question for you, and it's totally okay if you prefer not to share it, but can you give a range of what your typical monthly fees might be for our clients, or for your range of clients?
Sure. Average fees, they're really anywhere. There's different levels of engagement. So most members start at, we've named everything off of the mountain range, so we call it Kilimanjaro, is our average our average kind of mountain range that we use. And what that includes is those quarterly facilitations plus the accountability in between, which is going to be video calls, face-to-face visits, emails, those things to keep the team accountable in the in-between months. And that starts really at $3,500 for a very small local team, probably somebody in our backyard that we don't have to get on a plane for, and goes up to $8,500 depending upon the member and the complexity. If you're a very large organization and you'd like to have 2 coaches, and 2 accountability coaches, so a larger Petra team to come work with you, and larger folks in the room, and that's going to be our Everest engagement. Those start at $10,000 a month, and then go up to $18,000.
Right. Kilimanjaro, it's far from an average mountain.
Well, everything that we do is big. And so Denali is the engagement that once you have been with Petra for a while and you want to step down, and you just want to have a coach come and just do quarterly facilitations. You've already implemented the habits. You've succeeded your 24 months. Then you can hop down to a Denali engagement. And then our very last one is Matterhorn, and that is those kind of group workshops that we do. We don't do very many of them, but we do have that available for some members in certain regions, depending on where the location is.
And by group, you mean group within the company, or you have many other companies at one group?
Many other companies.
Okay.
So we have one that we do here in Nashville. Right now there's 5 or 6 companies that can come to it, but it's just not as personalized because it is more of a general exercise to work on rather than that particular member's information focus on them. So
Right.
the timeline to actually implement it is a little bit longer. It's not my favorite setup, but we do offer it for some of those just smaller members.
Right. How much does that typically run for the Matterhorn?
The Matterhorn, I think we just changed the pricing on it. It's $1,500 a month, I believe, and the member has to travel here. And so that's one of the differences is we will travel to a member if they're in that Kilimanjaro range or Everest, wherever they're at. If it's a Matterhorn, we're located in one of our offices is in Nashville, Tennessee, and so folks will come here, and so the travel is at their expense, which is a little bit different.
So there's a 1-day workshop, 2-day workshop?
1-day workshop.
1 day, okay.
And again,
a 1-day workshop to do stuff that can change your business. The pricing is not unusual,
of course,
not unreasonable at all.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because and the hope there is for a lot of these, I would say, smaller companies is they might start in what we call that Matterhorn setup. As their company continues to grow, then they have that desire to have more of a one-on-one. They want to bring more of their team members in. They want to really roll this out and do this full term. So then they would turn into one of those higher engagement levels, which is
right
as well.
Yep, makes sense. Now, do you have any sort of self-serve training products for people who might find even $1,500 a month a little bit too rich at where they are currently?
One of our things, we're a very transparent organization, so we share almost everything. We have, of course, some proprietary information and things, but for the most part, we will share anything with anybody. On our website, petracoach.com, we have every resource, every worksheet, activity. Most of what we do in the room is available on that website. You could go and download the exercise. It gives you step-by-step instructions, and you can do it yourself. We kind of call it the DIY method. So
right.
If somebody would like to pick up a copy of Scaling Up and grab some worksheets and implement themselves, absolutely can. We actually did that in the previous company I worked for a couple of years before we eventually hired a coach to take us to that next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jay Abraham does that as well, right? He has all of his content out there, right? I mean,
exactly.
Everything.
Yeah. And if somebody wants to do the work, go for it.
Yeah, and it's also at the same time those who are unable to afford his time and services. Well, he's okay with that, right? Because they'll never be a client anyway. He's happy to help them.
Of course.
And maybe down the line they'll work together.
And that is, everything that we do kind of comes back to, Rockefeller Habits. Our core purpose is, you'll see plus 10 MHB. That's kind of our little tagline. And that's to have a positive impact on 10 million human beings. And so the only way to hit that number is to have that content available. I mean, it's more than just in the day, the 30 people that are in the room. We have to move beyond that. And so these are some of those ways we do that.
So are you tracking that number somehow? And if you are, where are you right now out of the 10 million?
We get that question all the time. So we actually used to be plus 10,000 HB. I would say our first 2 years it was plus 10,000 HB, and we did track it. And we started getting way too close to it. I think we were at 8,700 and something.
Yep.
And we went, we're going to hit that. And so we said, well, we got to make this a lot bigger. And that happened way too quick. And so then we put it to the plus 10 MHB. And then from there, it's not a number that we track. We have from time to time gone back and looked. We have about 3,000 people that we are doing quarterly plannings with. We see them every quarter.
Yep.
And we have 10 coaches that are getting on stage across America doing speaking engagements from anywhere from 20 people to 300 people in a room. And so we got to the point that it became too much for us to track, but I know that we are high up there, not close yet to our 10 million, but making really good strides along the way.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, I used to see the McDonald's sign where they'd say 4 million served, 8 million served, and they stopped doing that. They probably figured the number's getting a bit, a bit odd to keep on sharing, and just calculating it must be a bit of a handful to figure out every year.
It's one of those efficiency things. We had to take a process and say, do we want to assign a resource to that? Nope, but we know it internally in our hearts.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward a little bit, I know you touched about it before in our conversation, but 2019, can you maybe discuss again what your plans are? I know you're talking about adjusting your systems still for getting ready for scaling up, and I know, or I guess essentially, what's on your one-page strategy plan for 2019?
Sure. So we're actually doing ours next month. So we do an odd quarter because so many of our members do a traditional quarter. So because of that, our planning is off quarter. Our year end is February 14th, Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day will be our year end officially for 2018, 2019, and then we'll reset for next year. So Monday actually is our pre-planning day from our Rockefeller Habits. We'll do our pre-planning meeting and kind of go through all of those items that are on our plate and kind of pick the ones that are most important and roll those out to the team in a couple of weeks. But in looking at that, we've taken a lot of time this year and really focused on how to make our processes as scalable as possible. Talent is something, I guess, that with the unemployment rate being as low as it is a challenge for us. It's a challenge for a lot of our members. We have a lot of those same challenges that they have. And so what action items are we going to do, and what are those plans in place that we have this year to address the talent, making sure that we're bringing in the best possible people and getting them trained as quickly as possible. Systems and processes, everything that we touch, our goal is to have it automated. So we don't want to waste a resource by having somebody do anything that's manual, doing anything that is taking too much time. And so we have a list of 5 or 6, systems and processes this year that the goal is by the end of the year to automate those. And then we're also focused on what do our alumni members look like and how do we continue to serve those at a higher level. So as we've continued to do this now, approaching our 7th year, we have really more alumni than we have current members because people have graduated over the last 7 years. And we have not put as much, in my opinion, time and effort into that alumni base and really making them feel, if you think about a university, you feel really connected to your university and you're invested in them. And so we have some efforts this year around increasing that alumni engagement and attention and making sure that, they have some of those same feelings, like they're still included in a part of everything, not like the relationship is over.
Right. Okay. I know earlier in the conversation, you mentioned that marketing was also on your list.
I don't know that it'll happen this year for us. We go back and forth on that. We said last year that we were going to turn it on, and we didn't. Like any other plans, strategy is just that. It's your strategic attempt at where you'll go, and strategy changes. And so we look at our one-page plan. Every quarter we pull it up and say, is this still the plan? And it got pulled off, I think, mid-year, as is do most of our members. So you have your plan, and then you make changes and ebbs and flow. So marketing, we've discussed, will it be in our plan for this year? And I think our final decision will be at that February date to say, is that something we officially turn on? It'll be seen we'll see if we actually turn that on or not this year.
Right.
I guess no. I'm going to say no if I had to have a tally up there.
Sure. And what would you say are your biggest challenges in 2019?
Think about that. One of our biggest challenges, which a lot of members have the same challenge as well, is really the time and the calendar. And I say that because everything that we do, if we do a member planning, everybody wants planning at the same time of the year. So, historically, at the end of a quarter, everybody likes to have their planning right at the beginning of the quarter. And there's only so many days in the quarter. We can't manufacture time. We can't manufacture days. And so we run to the point that we have 100 people wanting all the same date in a 2 to 3 week time period. And there's literally not enough days in the calendar. Right. So the calendar and that timing has continually been a challenge for us. We have had vast improvements over the last couple of years, hired more people to go do the work, which is a fix there. And then looking at having off calendars and things like that. The calendar is probably never going to completely go away, but each year we kind of work to mitigate that challenge for us.
Right.
So calendar and timing is definitely number one. Finding talent, I'm going to say both from our internal team and from the coach team. Our team, we have really incredibly high expectations for the folks that work here at Petra Coach. And we always kind of say we're looking for unicorns. So we're looking for these people out there. We interview a tremendous amount of people to find the right person for a role. We're really protective of our culture and of the team that we have, and how to do that faster. We've looked at this past year, we turned on some recruiting. Didn't work out quite how we wanted to. And so that would potentially be another goal for us this year, is how to turn on that recruiting and find that talent to get those folks in here faster.
Okay.
I think it's a problem that a lot of other people have.
Okay. Any other big challenges?
I think our last one is, if marketing, I think companies that deal with marketing have this challenge a lot, is their clients say, I have a hard time seeing oftentimes the value in what you do. And sometimes we can fall into that bucket. in that coaching kind of consulting-ish world, it's not always as easy to see that ROI. And so we are always reinventing ourselves and relooking at the value and restructuring. How do we prove the worth to that member? And so making sure that that member stays committed for the long haul and that they're able to do the work and do the change. Again, going back to that gym example, I think some folks work out for 3 weeks and then expect to have a six-pack at the end of 3 weeks, and it's not going to happen like that. But we do have to show value along the way, and you do have to have those little wins. And so always looking at new ways to show that to members is a challenge for us and something we'll continue to work on.
Right. Now, when you're talking about recruiting, you mentioned how you're keen on looking for faster ways of finding people who look like they're qualified and interviewing them and making a decision on them. How are you doing it now?
All of our successful attempts, or all of our successful hires, I'll say, probably 70% of them have come from within our own network. A players hang out with A players. And so when we talk about, we need to hire, we need to grow our folks, we always start with this team internally and then ask them to ask their friends and so forth and so forth. And that has been a really good way for us to drive a lot of the growth internal for our business for the last 7 years and really help us find the right talent. We will outgrow that at some point. We'll have to look beyond that. And that's the challenge for us is finding somebody that would, come into the organization, fit really well with the culture, be able to do the travel. The travel is pretty extensive. Depending on where they live and work at is an area that kind of fits this team. We prefer folks to be in a major city, makes it easy to get to and from an airport. And do they have a drive to be a coach, to be somebody that can come into a room, quickly build relationships, and inspire other people to change? It's a really unique habit or a trait, I would say, that some people have and some people don't. So we have to find somebody that can really go into a room very quickly and inspire others to be better and really want them to be better at the core of who they are. Right.
Now, the company that did the Rockefeller Habits certification, wouldn't they have a nice source of coaches readily available to have you check out and interview?
They're not really our competition, but if somebody approaches them and says, I'll say them being the main company, says, hey, I'm interested in getting a coach, then that they essentially will hand them to 3 different coaches, and those coaches have the opportunity to kind of present their case, and then the client will pick who they want to work with. So we're all on the same team, but then we're all in somewhat competing against each other as well for the actual business.
Right. Well, I was thinking, talking more along the lines of you hiring new business coaches. Right.
Correct. They are I would say most of the coaches that are from that parent company are in it to do it their own business. So they're not interested in building a team. They are there to grow their own business and do their own coaching practice.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
3 last questions for you.
Sure.
You're driving on the freeway in Tennessee, and you have your billboard out there on the side of the freeway, and you have 6 seconds to read that billboard because the traffic is moving well. What is your 6-second billboard message?
It's our core purpose. It's plus 10 MHB. We put that on everything. The reason why we put that on everything is because it drives conversation. And it's one of the things that we teach when we talk to companies about creating an elevator pitch. If you were in sales, you would say, I'm a sales guy. At Petra, you'd say, what do you do? And you say, oh, I inspire people to be better. I have a purpose of inspiring 10 million human beings to make a positive impact.
Right.
9 times out of 10, that person's going to go, what does that mean? Tell me about that. Whereas if you answer, I'm in sales, they go, okay, cool, me too, or something. And that's the end of the conversation. So you want to drive that conversation more. And at the core of it, that's who every person on this team is. And that's the purpose behind what we do every day.
Right. And my 2 final questions for you. Who are your ideal clients? I know we talked about this. Maybe you can recap it again. And what's the best way for them to reach out to your team?
Sure. Our sandbox is really going to be companies or businesses that have anywhere from 5 to 500 team members, and probably in that $5 to $200 million revenue line. We want them to be entrepreneurial operated, so being able to come in, make those decisions, fast, scalable growth, and having that lifetime learner. So somebody that is constantly hungry for growth, that is willing to make change, that is ready to adopt a new process and actually has the ability to put in the time And then lastly, of course, the financial ability to pay for it.
And the best way for them to contact you?
Our website, of course, isn't that everybody's best way? On our website, we have kind of a contact us page. We've done this we went through and created videos for all of our coaches and all of our team. A lot of people like to go through and kind of watch those videos and meet the different people on the team, or see a coach that maybe they think they connect with, or could come in and connect with them. So we always point people to the website so they can learn a lot about our team, those resources. And then, of course, there's contact us pages all throughout that comes directly to membership development, where they'll talk about what your needs are and see if there's a fit. Okay.
Would you like to share your web address?
Of course. You can always contact us at www.petracoach.com. It's PetraCoach.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks for joining us today, Mandy, and sharing how you helped accelerate your company's high-value sales.
Great. Thank you, Malcolm. I appreciate it.
We've been speaking with Mandy Burage, the Director of Operations at Petra Coach, about her company's rapid growth. For interviews with other fast-growing, high-value sales companies, or to learn how we can accelerate your firm's high-value sales through automation, visit eversprint.com.